it's time to start weaving these beads into our loom. I'm going to be referencing my bead weaving plan here, and I'm going to be going from the bottom to the top. So if I see here, it looks like I've got one sparkly and then 9 white pieces and then one more sparkly. So there are multiple ways that you can put the beads onto your needle here. The important part is that they're not going past the needle onto the thread. We really want them to stay on that needle. You can pick them up with the needle. You could reach into the bag and find multiple at a time, just like this. You could pick them up individually and put them on with your other hand. As long as you're trying to count out exactly how many you need, that's the important part. And I got a little ambitious here and grabbed too many, so I'm going to take a couple of those off. And now my beads are ready to be put on my actual loom. I like to check it to my plan before I put it on the loom, just to be sure. And this grid is the perfect size for these beads, so we can see exactly where they match up. Now I take my loom and I bend it a little bit at the middle, and I always try and send my beads through about the center of my loom. It's just so much easier than trying to put it right on the edge near the teeth. And I'm making sure that each of these warp strings are in between my beads. So there should be one bead per warp string empty part, if that makes any sense. And then I'm gonna pull this string here. Oop, I lost my needle there for a second, but that's okay. I'm gonna make sure it's nice and snug, and then rethread that needle. And if you can see this, my first bead string that I just pulled through there is underneath my warp strings. We just went underneath the warp strings. So what we need to do to secure those beads onto our warp strings is we need to go above them. So I take a pencil or a pen or something flat and I put it over those warp strings and push them down. And then as I send my needle back through all of my beads, I'm trying to touch the roof of those beads so that there's no chance of my needle going underneath one of those warp strings, which like we had mentioned in the last step, would just undo what you just did, right? So as you can see, this bead string is going under the warp string and then over it, securing that bead onto there. So now we can move on to the next row of beads. I already organized them on there, put them in through the center of my loom, pulled it through. I made sure to pinch my string there so it wouldn't come off of my needle this time. Grabbed my pencil, squashed the warp strings, and sent the needle back through. So it was going under the first time, now it's going over the warp string.